Well, hello. I don't know if anybody hears me. Let's see if I can make. There we go. There I am. So somebody let me know if you hear me. I'm always scared that I'm talking to myself and that it's really awkward. Some of you might remember my all-time classic opening to one of these when I didn't realize I'd started it and I swore as my opening. So glad to have you all here. I have 17 viewers present. Let's move the microphone a little closer. That probably sounded freak nasty, but we'll get over it. Excuse me. But anyway, really happy to have you all here. Okay, Glenn Kelly says I'm clear, so that's what I want to hear. And a little piece of trivia, which I want to show here, showed up in the comments. I did not know that. I never really thought about what kind of pen he used, but yeah, he would have been of that era where they would have used fountain pens. So interesting. I'll have to look that up after the video, see what kind of pen it is. And we've got Johan here. Whoops. Glenn Kelly. Okay, good. Glad to hear that. Sound is fine. And yes, we hear you. All right. Thank you very much. Always a fear. I tested the microphone ahead of time, but then I ran that other thing and I just like, did that mess it up? But we've got 20 people here, so good start. So oh, sorry. I thought I totally forgot my pens because I actually need some pens for this video, but they're laying right there. So I spent the time while the music was playing and the scenery was running, getting some stuff ready. I'm going to talk a little bit about digital versus analog, but this is a live stream, so feel free to jump in with your comments. One of these days, I want to try experimenting with actually bringing people on. Hey, we've got somebody from Poland here, Karol Grabowski, if I pronounced that right. Glad to have you. So anyway, my little bit of scenery was the way it looks here in North Dakota right now because I filmed that yesterday. I took the scenic route to get to Baker, Montana. So anyway, I was going to talk a little bit about digital versus analog today. And speaking of analog, I didn't even think of this while setting this up. Let me roll out of sight here. Whoop, okay, that's as far as I roll because I got a table. Check out these lights. So I'll have to remember later to put a link in the video description, but these are actually analog lights. There's a lot of LED lights right now that have programmed patterns. It's all digital. This works depending on which string of lights it is. It's either every 5th, 8th, or 10th light has a little piece in it that gets hot. And when it gets hot, it goes boink, and then the light goes off, but the electricity continues to conduct through the base of it. So the other lights don't go out. And you end up with this really cool flickering effect. And because it's just a wire getting too hot and going boink, it ends up making kind of a random effect. The lights get brighter and dimmer as more lights are connected or less, depending on whether we're boink. I was about to say whether we're boinking or not, but let's not say that. I teach high school. I know better. Whether we're like this or like this in several of the lights. So anyway, very cool effect. They've got they say no more than 5 strands put together. So I put 5 strands together and yeah, fun little analog thing. Of course, we're talking digitally, but fun. Oh, I actually like the Esterbrook Relief nibs. I don't know that specific one, but now I really am going to have to research this whole thing. Yeah, I knew Tolkien was pretty frugal, considering the time in which he lived and grew up. That would be a natural thing. And roll a tip. Yeah, some nibs do not actually have tipping on them. I wonder if that's what you mean. I have a couple of them like that. Just a little different way to do it. Yes, open and closed is much better, which I guess that is slightly digital because as we're going to be talking here, digital is basically an on-off thing. But, the fact that it's working based on the wire heating up or not is That's what makes it analog. Anyway, fun lights. Oh, okay. Did not know that. Okay, but I did know that Esterbrook started by making dip nibs. So I'm going to guess that this whole thing was earlier in his academic career, because later on nobody's using dip pens. My father has mentioned that his elementary school had spots in all the desks for dip inkwells, but that's not what they were using. If you ever read Tom Sawyer, Mark Twain's classic Tom Sawyer, they talk a little bit about the inkwells and dipping girls' pigtails in them, and the fun kinds of things kids do, because they weren't miscreants until the 21st century. They were saints before then. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit of digital stuff. I've got some digital toys here. I'm looking for one of my, oh, well, there it is close by. So I've got a digital toy. I've got a couple analog toys, and we're just going to talk about the difference. And I have some very big paper. Okay, not super big. Big-ish paper that was donated to the channel by the Moto Lisa. She is North Dakota's other big fountain pen person. She doesn't do much YouTube. She's mostly Instagram. That would be interesting. And, that would be clever if Osmeroid and Esterbrook are interchangeable, because there were a lot of different Esterbrook nibs. Oh, you had the inkwell holes as well. So I went to school too late to experience that. But, when I had the chance to be in a second grade classroom this week, actually, was it Monday or Tuesday? One of those 2 days. And it was unrecognizable compared to the way my second grade classroom looked back in, 1982, 1983, something like that. Elementary schools have changed a great deal. I would say that my classroom is much more recognizable to somebody from my era, but my teachers did not have a digital projector in the front of their room, and they didn't use computer sensors. So, things change. All right, so I'm going to take the camera down, and we're going to look at some digital stuff. We'll just talk a little bit about the difference, and we'll continue talking comments and such. One-room school old desks. They, some of them, I have a friend who, what is she, 91 now? Anyway, she taught elementary school for a few years before she got married, and all in one-room schoolhouses. And she talks about the first job she got, she took over because the kids had run off the last two teachers, and they wanted somebody who could be firm with discipline, so they hired her fresh from college. And she talks about how the sixth grade boy was being rotten to one of the first graders in the classroom. So she says she picked him up by the back of his shirt and his belt, marched him into the school, and slammed him down in the desk so hard she broke the chair. And she says she never had trouble with him after that. Don't think you could do that anymore, but anyway. Oh, okay, I did not know that. See, I need to learn more about a lot of things. Let's just be honest. But anyway, we're going to go down to this paper that the Moto Lisa donated to the channel a year or two ago. And I have a horrible memory for stuff like that, but I remember using this before. So the paper, whoopsie, is catawampus. Or else the camera is. Something's catawampus. Decatawampused. All righty. So I wanted to talk a little bit about digital and analog. My beloved Lamy 2000 went empty this weekend. I had a lot of time to write, and I just thought, it's getting close enough to the holidays, because I always give it a break during the holidays, that it's time to give another pen a chance to play. So we'll be doing a little bit with the Pilot Custom 823. And to help myself do this, I've got my reading glasses. And I came prepared with notes so I wouldn't make a fool of myself. So we got 23 people. So again, feel free to jump in with a comment or question. But I wanted today to talk about, so I've got the top already unscrewed. We're going to talk about digital versus analog. And I am a big fan of digital. I'm talking to you via YouTube, which is a digital medium. I like to do digital photography. I don't think I'd ever go back to film photography. I use a lot of digital lab instruments in my classroom. I keep an electronic grade book rather than a paper one. So, not a Luddite, that's for sure. But there's a lot of benefit to digital also, or to analog also, sorry. Well, there's benefit to both. So that's what I just wanted to hit. So at its essence, let's throw a different pen out here just for giggles and snorts. Let's throw out because I didn't do a pens in use this week. I was going to, and then I got busy and like, oh, wait, it's bedtime. So I've got this beautiful Pelikan M1000. So when you're talking digital, I don't remember the name of the ink. I do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Ackermann Grünmark Smaragd. So digital is basically on or off. It's going to be zeros or ones. That's how, in binary numbers, that's how it's handled. If you look at it, visually, your signal is this, on or off. Now, when we're talking analog, which, by the way, can be spelled with or without the UE. I just think it looks better with the UE. It's not going to be zeros or one. This is going to be more continuous. And what it actually does is it makes, I thought this was clever. It makes an analogy of the original. This time we're going to represent it with chemicals on film. Or, a waveform pattern like this. Yes, and I see we've got the word square wave came up, so I see my math people. I missed the comment. There we go. So yes, we have a square wave there. We have a sinusoidal wave. And we have Texas representing. Welcome, Juan Cisneros. So often what they do in digital media, let's switch to another pen. Often what they'll do, so we'll use my Aurora. My Aurora. I don't remember the name of the model. My Aurora. So often what they'll do with digital is these zeros and ones are what they call bits. The ink in this is diamine autumn oak. So each one of those is a bit. And if you take 8 bits, that represents one character. Which, we're getting kind of technical here. I did this with my 8th graders actually last week. One character. We can have 128 characters, so then they have to extend it with some other stuff. But with 8 bits, that's all the more characters you can represent. But that's what, based on what's called ASCII code. And we also call these 8 bits together a byte. Now, you may not have heard the word byte, or bit, but I know you've heard the word byte. And I don't just mean when you're having a meal. I mean, hey, Baja, Mexico. Oops, wrong button. Welcome, Alfredo Gallardo. Glad to have you. So anyway, you've heard the word byte because you know that you buy computers or cell phones, and you look at the memory and you're like, ooh, 64 gigabytes or 64 terabytes. Actually, I don't think I've seen 64 terabytes. That'd be pretty cool. That would take care of my storage needs for a while. But when my family bought its first computer, it had 16 kilobytes. So it's just a measure of how many characters can be held in its memory. And I don't want to go into all the intricacies because that's not the point of this. We don't really talk about memory with analog. It's just kind of how it's stored, whether we're using tape to store it or whether we're using vinyl records or whatever. But digital media are then going to store the zeros and ones either on a CD, a DVD, microchip. They can store them on tape also. That's not super common anymore. So just for giggles and snorts, I brought along, this is from my dash cam. It's got a little 64 gigabyte, oops, you can't read that, little 64 gigabyte SD card. Here's a slightly larger one that I use in the camera that films, that's upside down. This is from the camera that films me in the videos. I hate to admit this, I mislaid the 64 gigabyte one that's supposed to be in the looking down camera, so I got to find that. But anyway, I can move that one back and forth between cameras. So on your CD, you're going to see ups and downs. That's what happens when you burn it. Hey, Cesar Chavaria, welcome from oops, try that again. Welcome from Los Angeles. We're talking about digital versus analog. I'm focusing on the digital right now, but we're going to get some analog in here. Oh, that's interesting. That's getting into some Stanley Kubrick 2001 stuff because it looked like squares of glass that were in Hal's memory. Yes, I just nerded. Sorry, I'm a nerd. Now, on your tape or whatever, you're going to have, like I said, an analog of some kind. So on your record with the grooves, it's a spirally groove, and the sound, an analog of the sound is represented on the grooves. The actual sound waves. On your magnetic cassette tape or VHS, let's see if I can draw a cassette. I don't remember all the holes down here. Anybody remember the relationship between a number 2 pencil and a cassette tape? Bonus points if anybody can tell me in the comments. I discovered a new use for my number 2 pencils toward the end of my cassette era. Give you a small hint. I mean, it's not much of a hint, but small hint there. If I tried asking my students that, they just all be like, what? Here's something else that's analog. I actually was given this on a visit with Mr. Pierre Gustafson. It's an old wind-up watch, which some of the most expensive watches in the world are actually wind-ups. This is not one of the most expensive watches in the world. It's a Waltham, and yeah, not an amazing pen or watch. Yes, you rewind the tape with it, because what would happen is the tape would start getting caught around the rollers and stuff, and then you're just like, oh no. My tape decks died before the stereo did, and now I don't even own a stereo. Isn't that weird? There was a time when I dreamed of having to owning this amazing stereo, and that dream passed. I'm happy without one. Atomic Elf also remembers spooling many tapes back into the cassette. Yeah, my tape deck started doing that too. It was very frustrating. But anyway, so that's analog. Film, when you're looking at film, this is one where we're going to wish I had animation, but you'll have a whole bunch of pictures that run through very quickly. And then usually on the side, there was little images. These holes are for the sprockets, but there was little images that actually were an analog of the sound that went with it. the theater in the town where I live right now, actually, a couple of years ago, had to buy a digital projector because the film projector that they had been using for forever was obsolete because theaters are no longer not theaters. Movie producers are no longer sending out their films on film; they're sending them on, digitally. So we just grab them over the internet. So they had to do a massive fundraiser to deal with that. Um, uh, I've got a couple examples of actual equipment that I'm going to pull up here, but since this, I'm going to wait to pull up my actual examples. So let's just talk with a different pen. Olmas Ojiva, I remember what it's called. No, it isn't. Aurora Optima. Took me a minute. Oh, I didn't think of that. I owned not a Walkman. It was a generic one, but that never even occurred to me. All right, so we'll write with my Sailor 1911, whatever it is. So are there advantages to digital? And this is where I'm going to start bringing up equipment. I think this ink is Noodler's Black Swan and English Rose, but I could be wrong. I don't remember. So some of the advantages of digital is that the signal is unambiguous. It's not on or off. Or sorry, it's either on or off. It's not. Was that garble really a sound or was it something else? Yes, it is. If you bought, there is a Aurora Optima. I guess I can't get that close. There is an Aurora Optima currently for sale with the Soleil finish, but it has a black cap, and so it doesn't look quite like this. This is an older one. I'm not sure how old. I knew when I filmed the video about it, but I don't remember now. But yeah, one advantage of it is unambiguous. So you can send it further. And if you ever get into how the internet actually works, it is insane how many multiple signals and multiple ways it goes out and how they fact. Is that what you meant to say? Yep, that's what. Oh no, that's not what I meant to say. It's crazy. So it's unambiguous. I mean, this is a relative term, but it's easily coded. And sometimes, not always, you have no moving parts. And that's a big deal because one of my problems with my cassette is we were talking about the role of the number 2 pencil. Okay. Only the nerds here are going to get this joke. Hopefully my 8th graders would get it after their brief lesson on binary. That's funny. Okay, no. There we go. But no moving parts. Part of the problem with the cassette was we've got this tape that's rolling. It's going over all kinds of different moving parts inside the tape deck. And as it got older, pieces of rubber, little belts and stuff that are inside it started to stretch or get hard and whatever. And it started not working as well. That's actually why I quit using my VCR also. It just got old. But in something like these, no moving parts. Yes, one of my devices I'm going to show you, I didn't bring the keyboard out. Oh, I've got another one that I did, so we'll just go with that one. Yeah, I do like that. I have not tried that on my phone, but I also struggle to read my phone screen, so we won't talk about that too much. But yeah, no moving parts. Now, when we go to the advantages of the analog, And feel free to add to this list. I mean, this is stuff I just came up with writing notes the last couple of days, but it's definitely more human. Like, you can get that, okay, the little grooves on this are made by the vibration of the sound. In fact, some of the early dictaphones worked. They had a wax cylinder that you would talk into the dictaphone, and it would just make grooves on the wax cylinder based on your sound. But yeah, it's a little more human. Um, Often the connection between the media and presentation was more obvious. I remember, I got to write this or I'm going to say it while I'm writing it. I remember the first time I realized that I could run my record player without the volume on. I could hear it. I could hear the sound from the vibration of the needle on the record player. And yes, I am just barely old enough to have come into music basically at the close of the record era. You know, I bought a few 45s and a few 33 and a thirds, and then boop, CDs came along, and I did not have a CD player. But I had cassette, and cassette was a long time dying. I don't think I bought my first CD player until I was out working on my own. But, you know, when you look at film, you get it. Okay, it's going to snap each of these pictures in quick succession. Uh, Actually, there's a lot of how modern digital media is based on this. You know, I don't know my frame rate for this, but I know my dash cam does a 30 pictures per second frame rate. But it's just a lot more obvious. And a couple others. A lot of times when they want to store stuff long term, you know, not us personally, but you know, we want to store a copy of the latest Star Wars movie, because there's 30 gazillion of them. We'll put it on film. And of course, here's a big one. You own it. So a viewer sent this to me. I'm not sure how to feel about it. It was a channel name that I have. But I now own this physical copy of the book. Amazon can't say, no, we're going to take that out of your account. Don't worry, we'll probably refund you the money. I own this. Physical, mine, analog. I own it. So guess what one of the things under the disadvantages is going to be? But somebody read my mind, Mr. Oh, now I can read it. Mr. Best Beatles Fan 1. Yes, vinyl music records. A lot of people say that the records sound better than anything digital. Now, I don't have that ear. But I'm also kind of an uncultured lout that lives in, you know, southwestern North Dakota. So who am I? But I have heard that from a lot of people. I've also heard we've been talking about in my STEM, my eighth graders again. We've been talking about things like transistors and vacuum tubes and microchips. And one of the things, they still use vacuum tubes in some very high end amplifiers. So they theoretically sound better. So we're going to switch to a different Lamy 2000. This one is my amber black finish. And let's just hit a few disadvantages. And I'm going to get kind of technical with my digital one. But some disadvantages of the digital is it really is less human. I mean, when you look at computer coding, it's a language, but it is not a human language. It is definitely its own beast. It's less human. Quality not as good. We'll get into why here. But I would say that, you know, what you're seeing here is very personal because that's my handwriting. It's not continuous. Oops. Yeah, I welcome. I'm not quite certain which former student you are, but yeah, I enjoy restoring. I have not gotten into audio equipment, but there is currently a typewriter in my basement that is getting restored. There's also an old ancient calculator in my basement that I want to restore. It's fun restoring old equipment. And yes, Atomic Elf is hitting on what I'm about to show you with the disadvantages. So often the quality is not as good. Let's just say for now, it's not continuous. One thing I don't like about digital media is the screens. If you saw my week, oops, screens is spelled with an N. If you saw my week, words are hard. If you saw my video last week, I did a video about a typewriter and composing on a typewriter. And part of the reason I pulled that typewriter out of my basement in the first place is I was tired of living on screens during the COVID lockdown. So yeah, that's a disadvantage to screen to digital. Whoa, obsolescence. Don't judge me if I spell this wrong. How many of you still use punched cards? Can we read punched cards? How about I grew up working with a TI-99 4A. Can a computer read the programs that I wrote that are stored on cassette tape? Can we read my old Lotus 123 files? Can we even read a 5 1/4 floppy disk anymore? OSs change. Everybody who said OS2 Warp is the wave of the future. Whoops. Those are some big disadvantages. But another one that's kind of fun, or actually, let me write this one, then we'll get to the fun one. With digital, do you truly own it? So I bought a book on Kindle. Do I own it? Or can Amazon come in and say, whoopsie, we'll just take that one away? Yeah, fountain pens do not come with spell check. And I'm looking at the word obsolescence. I'm like, that is wrong, but I don't know why. Okay, so let's talk about the sound. So let's just say we have a nice sound wave. And this same thing is true for pictures as well. So we'll make this one big. But I want 2 of these so we can compare. But let's just say that my sound wave looks like that. So let's try to mimic it here in this picture because I'm going to show you actually a little bit of calculus. So, okay, we're going to represent this sound. We're going to put different numbers in to represent the different frequencies. So let's see, let's sample right here. Oh, it's a low. So we'll do a nice bar like this. That'll sample this sound. Oh, here we're higher. So we'll sample like this. Ooh, low, 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 low. Oh, and we got a high again. So we do a sample like that, and you lose a lot of that in between stuff that the vinyl record would have picked up. So let's say we've got a little bit more bandwidth to work with, and I think we need a thinner nib to work with also to do this. So maybe we're going to sample like this. Okay, we got a low. Oh, look, it got a little higher. A little higher. Oh, even higher yet. And then we got a low. Oh, well, I just messed up my pattern, but we'll live. This is what happens when I do this live. See, if I'd pre-recorded this, I would have said, whoopsie, let's redo that scene, but it's not live. But anyway, my point that I'm trying to make is if we do more samples, now we're getting a more accurate representation of the sound. But the price you pay for this is now this is going to cost more in terms of ones and zeros or characters of memory required. So we're going to have a higher sampling rate. And what they're gambling on is at some point, we're going to have this good enough that the human ear can't distinguish it unless you're a true audiophile. And that's, audiophiles, I kind of think, do you hear the difference? Do anybody remember the old Folgers Crystals ads where they'd go around in these high-class restaurants and did you think this was whatever kind of coffee? That was Folgers Instant? My goodness, I did not know. I don't know. I'm not a connoisseur of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not. But you can do the same thing with graphics. If you have two pixels that are contiguous that are, they're kind of similar. Well, hey, let's just represent them with the same color. And that's why if you work with JPEGs, which is a popular format on the internet, although some other formats are coming out now, JPEGs compress and they lose information. The more you work with them, the more information gets lost. Whereas if you work with something like a PNG, you don't lose information. Had to wet my whistle there. Now, if we're going to do some disadvantages to analog, oops, wrong pen. I guess I was using a blue pen. So if we want to do some disadvantages to the analog, the signal is more easily garbled. The tape gets stretched as it wraps around those rollers in the tape deck. Oopsie, we held a magnet near the tape. And that kind of thing. I've been leaving Paul Herman's comment on the screen because I wanted to remember to tell you this story. When I student taught, the lady I student taught under was, of course, quite a bit older than me. And she talked about how when she was in college, they had a computer that used punched cards. And she remembered somebody tripping and dropping their drawer, because I guess they carried them in drawers, of punched cards all over the floor. And she said he actually started to cry. So you can definitely garble the signal. Oops, screwed that up. Yeah, and the quality of headphones and speakers. I tend not to buy high quality audio equipment because I don't care enough. But like my father had a fairly high end stereo. Actually, he still has it for the 60s, and had these gigantic wood grain speakers with plaid grill covers. Your good speakers will have good woofers and tweeters and to bring out the sound. When I got my first stereo, it had a button you could turn that said tone. So yeah, when you're really into that stuff, I'm not into it. So I don't know. So, but yeah, it's more easily garbled. When you're trying to transmit the television signal or whatever, it's going to be more easily garbled. A lot of your analog is going to have moving parts, which means wears out. How often can you play that cassette before it wears out? How often can you play that record? And for normal people, a lot of that's impractical as far as storage. Imagine, I just looking at my streaming library. Imagine if I had to have a VHS cassette or film for each of those movies and TV shows that I have in my library. We do know what happens with books. This is going to be upside down, but this is one bookshelf out of many in my house. So flip up here for a second. Sorry, didn't mean for you to see that. That's taking up a lot of room. That's impractical, and I do live in a small house. So where to store that? So yeah, storage is an issue with the analog. You know, when you're really dedicated to it, like if I'm a movie producer, I probably am going to care that, oh yeah, I'm going to have the best of the best. If I'm just a guy that, let's watch Lawrence of Arabia tonight, you know, that's a little different. That's interesting. Yeah. See, there you're talking a world that I'm just, I don't know. Yes, you are absolutely right. My parents actually had a dark room and developed their own prints up into the 80s. They don't have it now. They still have the equipment, and it is a ton of equipment to make prints. And yeah, a lot of freak nasty chemicals that just whoop down the drain we go. And that is a problem. Another problem with the analog, beside the storage. You know, if I want to store digital, whereas now I'm going to start pulling out visual aids, and I can't find my very first one. So there it is. We may have to visit Imagination Land for some of these if I can't find them. This is an e-reader, among other things. It's a nice e-reader, and I can store my entire library on this chunk of plastic. I'm not using up all the space. I'm not using up all the paper. Now, is this more environmentally friendly? You know, think about all the plastic that's in this, and think about the server farms using electricity continuously to store this stuff and to just so you all can watch me ramble about analog versus digital. That's a lot of resources. Now, admittedly, not so many people use these anymore, but this is a copy of the Ekalaka Eagle. When I visit a small town, I always try to buy their paper if they have one. Make of that what you will, but you know, all of our stuff puts carbon in the air, and it's becoming an issue. This is well, who knows how many former trees, but a former tree. And now what? I read through it. That was great. And now what happens to it? That. Maybe I'll line a bird cage with it if I had birds. Let's see. Here's a nice book I recently bought, like I needed more books, about a certain analog device. This is actually very interesting. I'm looking forward to reading it more deeply, maybe over the upcoming winter solstice break, but there are some wild and wacky machines in this book. I do a lot of photography. Now, my good camera is at school, but this is the camera. Turn it this way so you can all see what it is. This is the camera that you usually see my face on. You know, I'd rather take pictures digital than with film. One thing, I can take a lot more, and I can throw away the bad ones without feeling bad about it. This has been a great device. I'm not as addicted to this as some people, but definitely a really good device for a lot of different things. I shopped for groceries with it today. Actually, that's about all I've done with it today. I talked to my parents on it. When I take students on trips, I keep track of them with this. I store like my Science Olympiad rules on this when we're on the road. When I'm working with resistors and electronics, this is my magnifying glass. You know, so that's an advantage of digital. I found a fun book. So he wrote this entire book using this math typewriter. And even has some, like, here's how to teach it. Here's some brief explanation, worksheets. There's some very clever exercises here. You know, again, all done with a typewriter. So you know, imagining typing it. He's got some very clever exercises where, oh, some of these we screwed up on, so you need to find which ones. Now, I wish I'd thought of this when I was teaching Algebra 1. Let's see where we're at. Some of that stuff in film photography might kill the mushroom mycelium. Yeah, fun stuff. This is a fascinating book. So if you want to get a copy of it, Old School Typewriter Workbook, Brian R. Krause. Yeah, a whole worksheet, a workbook, and all made with a typewriter. Now, this typewriter does not have the keystrokes for like calculus or anything, but I think that was less common in high schools at that time. Let me know if I don't know if you mean on my video or if you're talking about modern digital devices, but I'll tell you what I did with notifications on this guy and my laptop. I just turned them off. I don't get any. It is disturbing, like when I'm helping a student on their device, because we are a one-to-one laptop school, and the notifications just continuous, and you're just like, stop. But you are bringing up a good point, which is why some of these things are here. I think there is a hunger right now to go back to some of this analog stuff. Now, this device, remarkable tablet. Let me open that off screen because I don't know what I was working on last. It might have been some student stuff. So we got to protect their privacy. Okay, it isn't. This is some notes from an in-service we went to. Digital device, but I can handwrite on it. I think I've reviewed this, but this digitally has replaced a stack of notebooks, but I can still interact with it via analog. So I really appreciate that. I had a video earlier, last week, about a typewriter. I don't want to get it out because it's heavy. But 1975 digital calculator, TI-30. You can still find TI-30s in schools. You can't see the screen because apparently this camera can't pick it up. But this is heavy, so I'm not going to set it on my desk. All this machine does is add. This is analog using a system of gears and pulleys and such. And yeah, it still works. And if we're going to talk sound, upside down, let's talk about Bundy. No relation to Ted, I hope. This is an analog device which seems to have some mold growing on it. Icky. So yeah, we might have to do some work on it. But I haven't touched this in years. I haven't even opened it in years. But the thing is, it worked entirely by vibrating this. Hopefully my parents don't watch this because they paid $45 for this back in the 80s. Used. So it's even older than that. But yeah, my old clarinet. Please tell me that this isn't mold. I live in southwestern North Dakota, so I shouldn't have to worry about mold. It is a wood clarinet. It's not a plastic one like they are now. And am I missing a piece? Or is that for this thing? Do not remember. I can't imagine just losing a piece of a clarinet, so I'm pretty sure that's how it's meant to be. But yeah, analog. Oops. And the Lummi 2000 just met the floor. Okay. One guy. Oh, yeah. It is interesting that how nature, they have been finding like some bacteria and other things that can destroy Words are hard. Can destroy different types of waste, plastics and such. Oh, that's interesting. I I've never understood that, but I've noticed that on some live streams, like where I'm not the host, but I'm watching it, and then others it's not there. I don't have a time delay turned on, so I really don't know why there's a delay. The delay between you seeing it the way you see it right now on the screen is, I just get to it when I get to it. But anyway, I think I've shown you all my visual aids because I don't really want to bring the typewriter out. So let's flip back up and look at my face for a little while. I see I've been going for a long time. I nerded. This is actually calculus. We're looking at the beginnings of integrals right here. So just fun stuff. And I'm upside down, but I'll fix that here in a second. Since we're live, it just is what it is. And we see the top of my head, so let's come down. There we go. And I'm going to take the reading glasses off because I don't know if I'm going to need them or not. Let's move the laptop closer so it's easier to read your comments. All right, I saw definitely a delay on me there. I don't know. There is a lot going on when you're live streaming, so it's kind of amazing the amount of information that's being passed because, yes, the video is getting compressed. I'm actually, 720 by something dots per inch. And yeah, I could pay for the professional version of StreamYard, but then I could get 1080. I'm not sure if my laptop can handle it, and I know for sure that it's no profit for me to do that because I don't make enough money on my YouTube channel, and with it or something. So Juan Cisneros says, hearing the word calculus is bringing back flashbacks from high school and college. Yeah, high school I took calculus, and then college I took calculus 1, 2, and 3, and then differential equations, which at some colleges is called calculus 4. I've actually taught calculus only, 2 years plus a little while in Pennsylvania when I filled in for a teacher. I'm not convinced it's the most useful math for a high school student. Maybe if they're going into engineering, but I've sometimes wondered if we need to teach more statistics and not maybe the way it's taught right now. And that's a topic which I need to work out details because they're getting into a lot of different things. So I guess that'd be a driving video that nobody would watch. Yeah, so I'm glad you're here. I'm enjoying this. I every time I do a live stream, I just dread it because I get nervous, and then once I get going, I have fun. So I'm glad you were all here. This has been fun. And it's always interesting to see how many people then watch them afterwards, and they don't get the views of a pens in use, but they get more views than a driving video typically. So that's fun. I like the interaction. So I just decided, I think last spring, that I'm just going to do one live stream a month. I can't commit to weekly the way some YouTubers can. I can't even really commit to a specific time of the month because my schedule just varies so much. You would think teaching, you work these hours and boom, you're done. But no, it's more complicated than that. Because you end up with a lot of after-school duties and such. So, I just am committing to, we'll do one a week or one a month, and I'll just announce it a week or so ahead of time, and whoever comes. Wet my whistle there. So I love these lights. I'll try to remember to put a link to there's a video on YouTube where he explains how they work without using the word boink. Yeah, as a high school teacher, I should know better, but I did it anyway. Um, but he explains how they work. And it's interesting. And I love the effect of these. And with 5 strands of light, it is enough light that I can see when I read a book or type on my typewriter or I guess correct papers. Yeah, I do that from time to time. But it's just enough light. And it's kind of like having candles or something going because it's random enough because all the different little lights boinking. We're all adults here, apparently including my former student, so I can say that. I just kind of fun. It makes the living room magical, and I keep these up until the end of January. I mean, I know, I don't want to be one of those people that has their Christmas up too early. This is all I do for Christmas, but like I walked home. It was before Halloween, and I saw a Christmas tree in my neighbor's yard, or not yard, living room, because it was night and their curtains were open. And just like, oh, that's too soon. So I wait till Thanksgiving and in January. I think I would enjoy these through February. And why not? Maybe I'll do that this year. They're fun. They just make it magical. It gives me something to look forward to every year about this time of the year when school starts to get overwhelming, and especially that period in February, March, where you're just like, I hate this job. I want to quit. And the kids feel the same way, and you're just at each other. So, yeah, it's just something magical. And I have 2 strands here I need to fix because they're not working. So anyway, that was my whole video on analog versus digital. That thing about the bytes and the bits, so much of that makes sense once you understand how that works, and you're like, oh, that's why I am running, these giant videos don't run so well on this computer. Oh, that's why I needed to up my internet speed. In fact, here, my internet actually gave everybody an upgrade because they just didn't want to offer the old speeds anymore because they just didn't have the bit rate. They couldn't pass the little ones and zeros quickly enough for anything that people do anymore. And nowadays, we're often on multiple devices. Like I might be running my Apple TV, which connects to the internet, and my laptop and have it on the internet at the same time. Especially if I'm correcting something that's online. That's a lot of information. I had my parents visit. It's been a few years because different things, but my parents visited, and even they, at their age, they've joined the 21st century. My mother has a tablet. My dad has a laptop. And when they're all on it and I'm on it, or whatever, that's a lot. If you're a family, my neighbor across the street, 2 adults and 4 kids. So what do we do if all 6 people want to be on the internet at the same time? That definitely would have come up for a lot of families during the COVID pandemic. Here in my part of North Dakota, the local phone company that provides all the internet said every family that has a student in school will have internet service even if they don't currently. So they did that through the course of the lockdown when we were all online, which I thought was really nice because I heard so many horror stories from other places of students having to park in parking lots to get on the internet to go to school. And then it's just like, well, or not, who's going to notice? Just disappear. And there was a lot of that during the lockdown also. Happy it's over. I'd rather do my analog teaching in person. Oh, here's ODE. Welcome. I just saw your 4 Kaveco Sport art pens. I've never seen them for sale at the places I look at, but they are some pretty finishes. So thank you for exposing them to me. I am really looking. ODE, for those of you who don't know, is an avid Kaveco collector. I understand Kaveco's coming out with a piston filling sport, and I might be talked into buying that one if I can find it. I have a vintage one, but I have to look for the online one. So what you can look forward to, because we're going to get back into the channel thing, things got overwhelming, and then I had technical issues like, oh, where'd I put my card? Like, I'm literally missing the card with the video I recorded this week that was supposed to be my visit with the Omos Ojiva. I have looked all over the living room. I've looked in my couch cushions. I've looked under the couch. Omos Ojiva, gone. So when I said earlier in my cryptic post, we're not going to talk about what happened. Yeah, I lost the card that has the video on it. So just going to have to find that. And there will be a Pens in Use this week. In fact, it's going to be recorded, half of it tonight, half of it tomorrow night. I got to just record those earlier. Things come up during the week. You're just like, shoot, I don't have time now to record my video. So we're going to record earlier in the week. And I'm going to batch film. I need to batch film some writing samples. I've got a few pens. I've got a Bulgarian pen. I may have mentioned to somebody by writing, I have another typewriter, so I may have to show that one of these days. And I've got my project in the basement whenever that gets fixed. Okay, yeah, so no release date. I can live with that. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that's one that would tempt me. The art ones, I'm just like, tempting, but I don't know if I want to pay that. But the piston, I am very curious about that. So anyway, I opened this up with showing some driving footage. I just driving in Rame and north of Rame. I decided to start it early because usually what happens if I start by talking is everybody's joining and I've already gotten into what I'm talking about, and then I have to repeat myself a bunch of times. So I just thought it'd be a nice intro. Then it's painful for everybody that follows and watches the pre-recorded, but fast forward through it. Glad you're here. I'm about to close up. I just remembered that it told me that I can press B to save something. So it's a little late now, but I'm going to press B just to see what happens. We couldn't create a marker. Please try again. We couldn't create a marker. Please try. Okay. So apparently they can't create a marker, even though they told me they could at the beginning, but whatever. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. The 2 videos this week, you'll see me with the long hair, but I promise on Wednesday, I'm getting a haircut. So any videos recorded after Wednesday, I will have hair the length I prefer it. So you might see a lot of this shirt though, because I'm going to be lazy and not change my shirt for the 2 videos I'm recording today. So anyway, I want to thank you for watching. And if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens, both old and new and at all price points, and where I wander through random topics sometimes, I would invite you to subscribe. So anyway, I want to thank you all for watching and for showing up. And we'll see you on Wednesday with my revisit to the Omos Ojiva. So thank you very much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.